When young Sheldon first introduced us to George Cooper Sr., played brilliantly by Lance Barber, fans of The Big Bang Theory already knew his fate. He was the father whose death shaped Sheldon's worldview, the man whose memory was often painted in a less than flattering light by his son's anecdotes. Yet over the years, young Sheldon has done something remarkable. It has given George a heart, depth, and an undeniable presence that makes his eventual loss feel all the more tragic. Now, with Barber returning in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, there's excitement, but also an underlying sense of dread. Seeing George back in any form is a gift to fans, but for Georgie, his eldest son, it could bring fresh wounds to a grief he's barely had time to process. A father's shadow, the impact of George's absence. Georgie has always been the Cooper child who seemed to struggle the most with his father's passing. Unlike Sheldon, whose intellect and unique way of processing emotions often made him more detached and missy, who was young enough to find ways to adapt, Georgie was right at that painful age where he was old enough to understand, but too young to fully navigate his emotions. George Sr. wasn't a perfect father, but he loved his children. He had a special dynamic with each of them, and with Georgie, that dynamic was complicated. Georgie wanted to impress his dad, to step up and be seen as capable. But he also carried a resentment toward George's perceived favoritism toward Sheldon. Their relationship was filled with unspoken words and moments of friction, but also undeniable love. When George died, Georgie was thrust into adulthood faster than he should have been. He had to become the man of the house, a role that weighed heavily on him. And now, years later, just as he's finding stability with Mandy and his own family, the return of his father, even in a brief appearance, could stir up old wounds. The emotional weight of seeing George again. Lance Barber's return to the young Sheldon universe is a nostalgic and exciting moment, but it raises a crucial question. How will Georgie handle seeing his father in the context of this new show? Given that Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is a spin-off focusing on his journey, George's presence, especially if it's tied to a past moment in Georgie's life, could be emotionally overwhelming. Imagine Georgie seeing his father in a flashback, a dream, or even as a voice in his mind. It could be a bittersweet moment, a chance to finally express the feelings he never got to when George was alive. But it could also deepen his grief. Sometimes seeing a loved one again, even in memory, doesn't bring closure, it reopens wounds. For Georgie, whose adulthood has been shaped by trying to move forward, this could be a setback. Memories of his father's advice, or perhaps even regrets about things left unsaid, might surface in a way that forces him to confront emotions he thought he had buried. Georgie's grief versus the show's tone. One challenge Georgie and Mandy's first marriage will have to navigate his tone. The show is expected to have a lighter, more comedic feel, focusing on the ups and downs of young marriage and parenthood. But if George's presence is going to carry the weight of unresolved grief, the show will have to find a way to balance that with its humor. One approach could be to use George in a way that acknowledges the grief without making it overwhelming. A dream sequence where Georgie seeks advice from his father about marriage and fatherhood could be touching rather than painful. Or maybe there's an old video or letter from George that Georgie stumbles upon, leading to a heartfelt moment of reflection. If handled correctly, George's appearance could actually help Georgie grow. Rather than making his grief worse, it could provide a sense of healing, allowing him to finally let go of the guilt or sadness he's been carrying. A full circle moment for fans. Beyond Georgie's personal journey, seeing Lance Barber as George again is significant for fans who have followed this family story from young Sheldon to the Big Bang Theory. It's a reminder of how much the Coopers have grown and changed, and it offers a sense of continuity. For longtime viewers, George's return is a chance to revisit a character who was unfairly judged in The Big Bang Theory, but given new depth in young Sheldon. His presence in the spin-off, however brief, serves as a tribute to the role he played in shaping his children, even if they didn't realize it at the time. Conclusion: a welcome but worrisome return. Lance Barber's return as George is both a blessing and a potential emotional minefield. While fans will love seeing him again, the impact on Georgie's character is uncertain. Will it provide closure or deepen his grief? The show's writers have a delicate task ahead, honoring